Pasundan, who are selected from 200% to be 72 participants today, Professor. First of all, thank you to Allah, who has given us some blessing and healthy until we get meet via Zoom conference today after pending more or less 5 months. That should be in 5 March 2020 because of situation of pandemic COVID-19 today. So we have to attend via Zoom meeting today. Secondly, salawat and salam just our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, yes, brought us from the darkness to the lightness. Then it's really honor to me to moderate our lecture today with the amazing speaker from Kadir Has University for our first speaker today, and will join with us at 2 p.m. Jakarta time, Professor Dr. Chang Zhu Song from Auckland University, New Zealand. As we know, the One Asia course series is fully funded by One Asia Foundation or Eurasia Foundation Japan. From 2009 through 2020, the foundation has provided a platform mainly centered on the Asia region by looking ahead and focusing on expansion of activities globally. Foundation believes that in this time, it is necessary to expand the platform from Asia to region, including the Middle East and Europe. Besides, on this foundation was changed the name of foundation from One Asia Foundation to Eurasia Foundation, and like to conduct the future activities under this new name. Actually, the Eurasia Foundation is going to contribute to eliminate of conflict around the world and the creation of a harmonious and peaceful society for every individual on earth, and provide a platform that anyone who shares the foundation purpose on philosophy. So that's why Universitas Pasundan is one of chosen university in Indonesia to be hosted the agenda. And then today is the first class series for our opening ceremony and general lecture at February 2020. The first class series today is presenting speaker from Turkey and New Zealand. So without lingering any longer, I would like to let our first speaker from Kadir Has University, Prof Hasan Tekguc, to present his paper. The floor is your, Professor.
Hello, everybody. My name is Hasan, and thank you very much for joining to this talk. And also, obviously, thank you very much for inviting me. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
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 Great. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me briefly introduce myself. As I said, my name is Hasan. I work in Istanbul, Turkey. Kadir Has University is in Istanbul. I am originally from Cyprus. It's a small island in the Mediterranean. You can look at it later. Let me write it here, the name. Okay. So, but I studied undergraduate in Istanbul, and then I did my PhD in United States, and I have been working after graduation. I have been working in, I'm back in Turkey since 2010. Okay, so I studied economics at every step. So undergraduate, master's, and the PhD. Okay, so this is briefly me, and I generally specialize in labor economics. So today's talk is I choose a topic which is I believe it's a great interest for many people, and also it's the intersection of technology and labor markets, and also there are lots of misunderstandings. Okay, and in my opinion, unfounded fears about lose of jobs. So my talk will be about, is robots going to take over all the jobs? Okay, so let me begin my presentation. I will go and share my screen with you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to not only share my presentation, but I want to show some small videos and share parts from a report on robotics. But if at any point, if the transmission of videos especially is, if you have difficulty in viewing them, please warn me, okay? Let me know that there is a problem in transmission. So without further ado, I will start my presentation. Okay, how do I share screen one? Share. Okay. I will do this. I haven't done this before, so let me try to screen everything advanced. Okay. Here is my presentation. Share computer sound, yes. Okay, so here is the beginning of my presentation. Again, welcome to my presentation. So this is a very popular, in my opinion, topics, and a very misunderstood one. Okay, generally, think about the movies, Hollywood movies, about the future. Okay, this space movies, or maybe movies about where there are many robots, such as Blade Runner, or such as movies like Elysium. Okay, in all these movies, there is a few very rich person. They control the robots, and all the normal people are living in poverty. Okay, and the story goes like there is this now very smart, very capable robots, and these robots are taking over our jobs. They can do all the jobs. So the rich people they fire the businessmen, they fire the ordinary workers, humans. They replace ordinary workers with robots, and ordinary people live in poverty. Okay, in extreme cases like Terminator movies, there is no need for humans at all. Artificial intelligence and the robots take over the world. Matrix, etc., is a movie like this. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a different story. I don't think this line of thinking is reasonable. So let me explain you how economists think this issue. Okay. So Okay, can you see my slides? You can just do thumbs up or thumbs down. Can you
Yes,
see
sir.
my slide? Thank you, thank you.
Yes,
Okay,
I see.
okay. So this is from an economics perspective, robots and artificial intelligence. AI stands for artificial intelligence, is an old topic in economics. Okay. So actually, this is, we can think of robotics as the next step in automation. And industrial revolution is basically history of different major automations. So some people actually call robots and artificial intelligence as the fourth industrial revolution. The first one, steam engine, okay? So what are the other ones? So I actually list you here the three major big step in automation in 20th century. The first three one, okay? First one, you will be surprised. Many people don't think it as automation, but it's actually improved automation a lot, is the electrification. So ask yourself, how was what was a factory look like before, after steam engine, but before factories? Okay, and I'm going to show you a picture, a couple of pictures of factories without electricity. And then actually in 1920s, 30s, a second innovation pioneered by Ford Motor Company, but then spread to all industries, is the assembly line, conveyor belt. Okay, it is also a step in automation. And then in 1950s, we have new machines, what call machines in general name with computerized numerical control machines, CNC. Okay, and you can think of industrial robots as the next step. So from an economics perspective, automation is nothing new. Okay, so let's actually, so I'm going to try to show you these okay. Okay. Can you see these factories, or you still seeing my presentation?
Yes, I can see.
Can you see this factory? Pictures of the old factories?
No,
Not yet.
Oh, no,
I can't see that.
I can, sir.
Okay, let me,
Still the
okay, I
presentation
understood it. And then let me share screen. Okay, so this is what a factory before electricity looks like. So how you transfer the energy, steam energy, to the machines if you don't have electricity. And as you can see, you need belts. Okay, these are extremely dangerous factories. So this is what a factory in England actually looked like in 19th century. You see these belts and the female workers, and this is another textile factory. What is important in these factories is that they are very dangerous. These belts always they snapped, so they actually injured workers, many times killing them. Okay, so electrification, you can think of it as the first major second major step, excuse me, in automation. Let's actually a little bit watch this factory. This is another factory from United States. the other machines to do this bad. Okay. So this was before 1900. So what is the next step? 1920s, 30s, assembly line. So let me try this one. Okay. So this is the very famous scene from Charlie Chaplin's Modern Times, excuse me, but I think it is still valid. So let's watch a few minutes. And many of you have watched it. It's from 1936. United States, a modern factory. So the boss tells the foreman to increase the speed. So you see the assembly line. The idea is everybody does just one task. If you do the same task again and again, you get very fast. So this is actually the second step in automation. Okay. So of course he goes crazy because this is a very boring job. And, but at least it is less dangerous than the previous jobs. Okay. And okay, how do I move these things? No, not this one. So, okay. And finally, technology after 1950s, the CNC machines. Okay, these machines are the ancestors of current robots. Okay, so you see the machine does a very complicated thing again and again. The same machine, just like that. No humans. Okay, no humans. Machine does all the tasks. These are producing, I think, Coca-Cola bottles or some other bottles, and repeatedly. So, okay, share presentation. Okay. So, there's actually, as I said, the industrial robots is the next step. I also apologize for the noise from the outside. Sorry, but my street, there's the street cleaning going on. So, what is the difference between a industrial robot and the difference between the CNC machines is, first of all, unlike a CNC machine, an industrial robot now is reprogrammable. With a CNC machine from 1950s, it can do only one task and you cannot reprogram it, okay? The new industrial robots are multi-purpose. So remember the machine, it only make bottles. The new robots can do many more tasks, multi-purpose, okay? The third thing different is the old machines only work in one axis. Okay, it only works in front of it, whereas the industrial robots, they can rotate. The new robots can rotate, and also they can be mobile. Okay, so this is the next step, 20th century. So if we look at the history of automation, industrial revolution, there is the in 18th century, the first step is steam engine. Okay, instead of human energy, use steam energy. And the second step is electrification, which is a much more efficient and safe method of transferring energy to the machines. And 1920s, 30s is the assembly line. Okay, so you separate every task, every complicated task into smaller parts. And we are in 2000s, now we have industrial robots. So so let's look at the data. First of all, unlike what you watch on the movies, the industrial robots are still the minority. So can you see this graph? Yes. Graph, yes or no? Yes, no. The graph?
Yes, can see.
Yes. Yes.
Yes,
Can you
yes.
see? This is the number of new robots installed in the world. Great majority are still the traditional CNC type, and only a small number are the collaborative robots. Okay. The second thing is, so still many countries in the world are in the stage of adapting to the earlier industrial revolutions. Okay, so but there are some countries. Okay, and which countries are the most robotized is sorry, excuse me. Here you see there are basically two countries very different from the rest of the world. There are two more countries which are above a level, and then the rest of the world. Okay, and as you see, as you cannot see, Turkey or Indonesia is not even in the list. So this tells you robot density. How for every 10,000 employees, how many robots? So Singapore and Republic of Korea has like another level. They are twice more robots than the third and fourth countries. Germany and Japan, number 3 and 4. And then Chinese Taipei is Taiwan. Okay. And then we have some Scandinavian nations. Basically, the rest is Europe, mostly Europe and also China. But when you look at the continent level, Europe is number 1. Asian average is low because, as many of you know, there are poor countries in Asia or middle income countries from Philippines, Indonesia to very poor ones like Cambodia, etc. Or even places like Bangladesh. So, and finally, which sectors is, when we look at it, is there are basically two sectors which is automated: electronics and automobiles. Where we see industrial robots now are in two sectors: automobiles and electronics. Okay, so what these countries tell us? Okay, Singapore, South Korea, Germany, and Japan. Is this the story of robots taking over jobs, destroying jobs, and lots of unemployment? Or the story is the other way around? In these countries, the unemployment is already very low, incomes are high, job workplace security, the companies take it very seriously. Which one is these countries? Are they, in my opinion, the story is the second one. So story is not that factories, robots taking over all the jobs, no jobs for humans, and humans live in poverty. I think the story is other way around. Okay, so these are some of the best places, these countries: Singapore, South Korea, Germany, Japan, Chinese Taipei or Taiwan, or Scandinavia, Denmark, Sweden. These are some of the best places to live on earth. They have good schools, good healthcare, low unemployment, good welfare government, and the story looks like that, from low employment to robots. Okay, so actually, from the perspective of the economists, when we compare countries, the popular movies is not realistic. You know, the Matrix, the Terminator, the Blade Runner, the Elysium. Okay, these movies, remember, robots taking over the world and humans living in poverty. This is the story of these movies. Whereas in real life, it looks like when the government cares about its people, so that the workplace safety is important, where the government invest in education, when there is a welfare state where, you know, if you are unemployed, you get benefits from the government, things like that, social assistance, you know, where healthcare is free, the companies has to pay high wages to workers to convince them to work, but at the same time, workers are well trained, so actually they contribute a lot to the company in return. But for many tasks, the companies are looking for automation, simple things. Okay, to give you a real life example, in Denmark, the cheapest workers, so the lowest wages in Denmark, they don't have a national minimum wage. Different industries have different minimum wages, and the lowest minimum wage is in the food sector, service sector, basically McDonald's and Burger King. And at Burger King, 1 hour gross wage is 16 euros. Okay, so gross wage means it's not the money that goes into your pocket, it's the cost to the employer. It includes all the taxes, all the social security contributions for the future retirement of the worker. So the cost to the employer is 16 euros. So Denmark, Scandinavia, these are high tax countries. So the worker receives maybe 8 or 9 euros. Okay, the rest goes to the taxation. But from the employer perspective, the cost is 16 euros. Okay, so if, of course, in this country, the employer wants to automate as much as possible, because you don't pay wages to robots. Okay, and in these countries, they have very low unemployment also. Anyway, this is comparing countries. What about if you look at the history of the same country? Okay, so how the economists think. Automation, another way of looking is automation means doing same job, same thing, producing the same amount of things with less workers, or producing the same output, using the same number of workers, but producing more. So it's actually, if you, with more automation, think about the labor productivity as the division of total production divided by the number of workers. If there is more and more automation, your labor productivity should be increasing, okay? Because what are you doing is you are replacing workers with machines. So the total production, the numerator is the same, but the denominator, the number of workers, is less. So the labor productivity goes up. So economists, this is actually, if you study economics, this is, and you do a PhD, and if you choose your subfield as industrial organization, this is one of the things you are going to do. You are going to calculate, you know, the labor productivity for different sectors. So this is a very basic topic for economists. So when we look at the labor productivity of the whole country, and for an example for you, I choose the, historically speaking, United States, because it has the best data going back, okay? And in the United States, different times, 1947 to 1973. This is the period of CNC machines, or 1995 to 2005. This is the period of when the computers entered every workplace, okay? The average labor productivity growth is 3%, okay? This period is when United States used to be the technological leader of the world, okay? Especially the first one. So 3% annually labor productivity increases. This is, remember, labor productivity. You are doing the same thing with less workers, okay? So each worker is more productive. Currently, when you look at places like Japan, you know, some of the new technological leaders in the world, or Germany, around 1%, productivity growth around 1%. So compared to earlier periods, the robots, industrial new robots, are not actually a very fast productivity growth. It's actually slower. And the reason is, it's not because the technology is not very interesting or fantastic. Some of these robots and artificial intelligence is really they can do things that unimaginable a couple of years ago. But the reason is there are very few investment, and that will be the next step, okay? So, by comparing countries and by comparing one country over time, what we learned, just a repeat what I said. The countries with the most robots are not dystopian places in the movies, okay? These are actually some of the best places to live and to work in the world. Again, Singapore, South Korea, Germany, Japan, Scandinavian countries, okay? The most robotized sectors are automobile and electronics, are generally in sectors with higher wages than average, okay? These are good jobs. So if you work in an industry with robots, you most probably you have a good job for that country. And actually, when we look over the time, this period in the United States with the fastest productivity growth that we have data, economic statistical data, is actually the period in the United States when the wages of workers increased fastest, okay? So the wages of workers were increasing. So the machines' productivity was increasing, which means the same amount of things produced by less workers, how is it possible that the wages of the workers also keep increasing? Okay, so when you have lots of machines, robots in a country, it's a good place to live and work. And historically speaking, if you look at the technological leader of the world in 20th century, United States, this period, 1947 to 1973, was actually for the United States worker, what Americans call the average Joe, an average person in that country, or average Jane. It was the best times to be a standard worker. So let's think more detail what this tells us. Okay. So the first thing you should remember is the following. The technology exists, okay, at universities, but just because the technology exists, it doesn't mean that everybody will put it into use. So let's think from the perspective of the companies, the perspective of the firms. So the first concept I'm going to introduce to you, new concept today, an economic concept, is asset specificity. Okay, and for machines and also robots, even when they are reprogrammable, they have few alternative uses. Okay, and especially they cannot transition from one industry to another industry. Okay, this is even true for artificial intelligence. Okay, for example, you may know that Google, etc., they are investing in driverless cars. Okay, cars with no driver, or Tesla. But even that very fantastic technology cannot be applied to other sectors like electronics production. So if you are a company considering investment in robots, you want to be sure that whatever you are producing, whatever you are planning to produce and sell, will have sustained demand in the future, because these technologies, they are fantastic, but they're expensive. Okay. When you have a factory with lots of workers, when there is no demand, from the company's perspective, solution is very simple and straightforward. Fire the workers, get rid of the workers, no expense, no cost. Okay, whereas if you invest in robots or artificial intelligence, even if you cannot sell, you have to, how do you make that initial investment before earning money? The answer is you get a loan from the bank. Okay, so you get a loan from the bank, you build your factory with the newest machines, newest robots, and then you produce the things, but there is no demand. What would you do? You still have to pay back the bank. The bank doesn't care if you don't sell. So for firms, even if they know about the technology, in order for them to be convinced to invest, they want to be sure that in the long run there will be demand for their products. Okay, so, and you can imagine in a time like COVID pandemic, where the economic activity, what will happen next year is very uncertain, the companies will be hesitant to invest. And when we look at the robot investment, most of them in Asia in the most recent years. Why? Because the Asia is where the most of the economic growth happened in the last 10 years. United States and Europe had very little growth. So actually in the last 10 years, the Asian countries, Singapore, South Korea, Japan, they take over, they are catching Europe, because they are the only places investing in new factories, because this is the only continent that is still growing healthily. The rest of the world is not very growing. Okay, so this is the idea of asset specificity. Okay. Number 2, dynamic demand responses. Robots and machines, they do two things. They create jobs, and then they destroy jobs, and also they create jobs. And what is the balance? The balance in most of the time in history is actually they create more jobs. Okay. How they do that? Two ways. One, automation means you produce things, more things cheaply, which means the price drops. When the price drops, the demand increases, and an increase in demand means actually you need more workers to work parallel to machines and robots. This is the first part, and the second part is you need people to produce the robots, and you need people to repair the robots. So and or machines, whatever you're doing. So this is what happened in the United States in this period, the golden period for the workers, 1947 to 73. Okay, so even though in every factory you need less workers to produce the same stuff, same amount before, there are now more demand for everything. Okay, so actually you need to produce more cars. So the workers actually many times they didn't lose their jobs. Okay, what happened is that instead of producing the same stuff with less workers, with the same amount of workers, factories keep producing more. And the second thing is you need also you have new industries producing the machines. Okay, this is number 2 and 3 that actually determines the balance of jobs. Okay, number 4 is the idea that I already mentioned in the previous slide, but let me explain it more detail now, is that the companies are in business to make profit. They are not in business to produce goods. Their ultimate aim is to make profit. So when a company decides to invest in a new factory, then they have to decide on what kind of a technology. A technology that requires a lot of workers, or a technology level that few workers and lots of machines and robots. And this balance is determined by not the level of technology. Maybe these firms are aware of the most cutting edge technology, but what is it? Ultimately, they are going to look at which one is cheaper. Okay, and a factory with lots of workers can be cheaper if the wages are low, and a factory with lots of robots can be cheaper if the interest rates are low. Okay, remember, interest rate is important because it determines how much you pay back the bank for the loan. Okay, so high wage and low interest countries. The example is Japan. The companies prefer machines and robots. And in places like where the interest rate is high and the wages are low, countries like Turkey, or I don't know Indonesia. I didn't look at the most recent data, but let me continue with examples I know. Bangladesh, or it used to be China like this, but not anymore. But Turkey, where the interest rate is high and the wages are low, the companies prefer to continue with old technologies. It's not that the Turkish engineers don't know about the new, most recent technology, okay? It doesn't mean that the Turkish people are stupid and they don't know the new technologies. But it is not profitable. And the company's ultimate aim is to make profit. So there are very few robots in Turkey, okay? And the final thing is, and this is very important, okay? Also, very important thing to consider is the robots, they don't complain. They don't get sick, they don't complain, okay? They are not humans, obviously. This is a very old quotation from Karl Marx. You know, he lived in the 19th century, but the basic idea is still the same. Strike, after each strike, there appeared a new machine, okay? When workers are, have strong rights, the companies are more eager to replace workers with machines, okay? So in places like Germany, Scandinavia, where the worker rights are very strong, where you have a welfare state supporting the workers even when they're unemployed, what you see is that they actually very eager to replace the worker with a machine. So when a company considers investment, they look at all of this, okay? Are the workers, will be a demand in the long run? Because you remember, building a factory and buying robots, you need to be ensured about sales and demand for your product maybe in the next 10 years, okay? These machines are not, the robots are not cheap. You have to buy them with a loan from the bank, and the bank wants payback even when you cannot sell. Whereas if you have workers, you can just fire them, okay? And all others, so all these 5 steps, they come together and determine in each country how much they adopt the technology. So you can think about a production process, a new technology, the robots, they may be technologically feasible, but sometimes it's not, at least in certain countries, it is not economically feasible. That's why we see different levels of automation between countries. In some countries, it makes sense to replace workers with robots, like in Germany, in Singapore, but in other countries, it doesn't. So it doesn't mean that the countries with few robots, people are not smart and they don't know the new technology. They know, but it's not profitable, okay? Okay, the next step we have to think about is the government policy. So the government can affect what happens, okay? So the government can affect who wins and who loses. And the one, what are the tools of the government is, let me tell you the result before I tell you the steps, how it can affect. What are the result is that the people who work in advanced technological sectors, their wages is determined not because they are highly educated or they can work with, with machines, you know, the programmers or robot makers. At the end of the day, their wages, their income will be determined by government policy. Okay, and what are these things? There are one very important policy, it's the patents. So and things like competition in workplace, for example, the migration. So is it a country allows migration of engineers or not? Okay, this will be determining factor in the people's incomes. I will come back to this topic. So let's look at the steps. So in our modern world, almost every new technology, they start in a university. Okay, most of the world universities are public institutions. So the government actually determines the direction of technology indirectly by funding the universities. And the second step is government in many countries is sometimes the biggest buyer of new technologies. So what government is buying and what is the government's research agencies funding determines what the direction of new technologies. Okay, and let's look at the some example. As I said before, United States used to be the technological leader in the world. In industrial machines, it's no more. But there's one sector, one subfield, or maybe two subfields of this artificial intelligence and robots that United States is still the leader. And it is robots to kill people, killer robots, okay? The drones, or their official name is unmanned aerial vehicles, literally, no man, okay? So it is in the name, unmanned. So this is, remember, is a political choice. United States could have, as a political entity, could have choose to invest in and continue to be the world leader in industrial technology. Something changed in the United States policy, that's not our concern, during the 1980s and especially in 1980s, and it stopped being the world's industrial leader. But it's still a rich country, and it's with very good universities. So when they choose, they can be a world leader, okay? And you know, the alternative is, again, a movie from United States. Many of you may watch it, Wall-E. Okay, here the robots are not killer robots. Here the robots are taking care of people. It's an animation, it's, I know, but it tells you that the government actually can choose the direction of technological choice. They can affect, okay? Remember, government funds the basic research. Everywhere, basic research is funded by governments. Government is, in many cases, the biggest buyer of new technologies. So it's actually, in the case of United States, another example of government buying new technology and investing is NASA. Many of you probably heard it, you know, sending people to space. So in another world, we can actually think of a government where alternatively, all the dangerous jobs are forbidden. All the dangerous tasks have to be performed by robots, okay? There are many people die in industrial accidents every day. So if we want to choose, we can actually invest, instead of killer robots, we can invest in robots that perform the dangerous jobs. So this is a political choice. It's not, technology is not independent in that sense. So this is the first step. The government shapes the industrial policy, okay? Again, it's not the technology, it's not the politics, but it's not the economics, but actually at the development level, it's the political choices. So what are these political choices every day? So one thing is the length of the patents and copyrights, okay? Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, you know, Bill Gates, the founder and the biggest still shareholder of the Microsoft. Mark Zuckerberg, founder and the biggest shareholder of the Facebook. Elon Musk, things like, you know, this technology entrepreneurs, many of you, I am sure you know their names. They are like celebrities, as if they are from Hollywood. Everybody knows their names. Their wealth depend on the length of the patent. That's another choice by the government. Okay, the patent laws, they're how long a patent? 8 years, 10 years, 15 years? For example, very hot topic. If there is a vaccine for COVID-19, should the patent belong to all the people, so it will be free to copy it, or should it belong to the firm who discovered it? And if it belongs to the firm to discover it, how long it should be? Okay, none of these things are written in Quran. Okay, these are all determined by ordinary politics. So Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, they are billionaires because of the length of the patents. Okay, the patents and copyrights are very lengthy now. They used to be short periods of time. Remember, 40s and between 40s and 70s in the United States, there was lots of productivity growth, but at the same time, the wages for the average people increased a lot, and the rich people didn't get much richer very much. It wasn't like today. There weren't many billionaires. But something changed, as I said, in the United States. The ideology changed. And after 1980s, they start to increase the length of the patents. And with increased length of the patents, you start to have technology billionaires. Okay. Again, this is nothing natural. We can we increase the length of the patents and we can decrease it back. Okay, it's a political choice. The second thing is technological unemployment. How you deal with technological unemployment. So let's say a new technology destroys jobs in a locale. Okay, what it can be. For example, now that we can produce electricity with windmills and sun power. There will be lots of unemployment in coal industry, because the coal, we are using it currently to produce electricity. If you produce electricity from the wind and sun, we don't need workers in the coal industry anymore. So what will happen to these workers? Okay, this is a political question. Okay, for example, Scandinavia, so think places like Sweden, Denmark, they have programs for retrain workers and help them, if necessary, relocate to other parts of the country if their industry is destroyed by new technology, if their jobs are destroyed by new technology. So what you do, you basically retrain workers so that they can work in new industries. This retraining, they get actually during this period a wage from the government, and it can be up to 2 years. So at least in rich countries like Scandinavia and USA, this is a political choice. So some countries choose to retrain, invest in retrain their workers, and some like Sweden, and some countries like United States don't. So it's again a political choice. Okay. A third thing of politics of is rules and regulations of what people and machines can do. Okay. So I don't know if you have this application for food delivery. Okay, but in Turkey we have an application called Yemek Sepeti. Literally translates to food basket. So in Istanbul, almost every restaurant is on it. Okay, I can open it. I can easily see all the restaurants around me, and I can order it through the application without calling the shop, and they deliver it to me, and I pay through the application, and they deliver it. In China, I know that they have it's part of the WeChat. You can do it through the WeChat. In Turkey, it's a separate application. So they don't have applications like this in the United States or Europe. They recently start to have something called Uber Eats. So Uber starts to have, but think about why the United States and Europe, especially Europe, don't have, Northern Europe, Germany, they don't have an application like this.
Professor,
because they can.
I apologize. You have about 10 minutes again.
Okay, 10 minutes is okay. I'm about to finish. Okay, no worries. So the reason is in Germany, you cannot deliver food with motorbikes. Okay, if you cannot deliver food with motorbikes, this kind of applications are useless most of the time. Okay, and the delivery is in United States, food delivery especially in big cities like New York City, you can deliver food either by foot, by walking, or by bicycle. So the laws forbid food delivery by motorbikes. If you don't have the motorbike, this food basket type of applications are not very useless. So the government policy affects the technology, who wins, who loses, okay? So the patents, worker retraining, and regulations like the things that you don't think about technology, like motorbike food delivery, is actually important, can be effective. So let's watch another video. So I have to stop sharing this screen. Let me go and try to share another screen. So if you don't have food delivery by motorbike, so Amazon is investing delivery with drones. Okay, so you see boxes going. So this is just this is not an everyday usage still. They are researching, but you know they don't have the food delivery or any delivery with so okay. I don't think that's a very that technology will be successful, but they are trying. The idea is because they cannot deliver with motorbikes. Okay, so these are the politics of technology. So let me actually, these are my last two slides. Countries with lots of technology are actually some of the highest welfare places in the world. You know, the Singapore, Japan, South Korea, Germany, Sweden, Denmark. So these are good things. So what are the beneficial policies for technological progress? Remember the reasons, so policies will follow. Predictable and economic environment. Okay, predictable, so that the firms can plan for the long term. Number one, that's the economic environment should be predictable so that companies can be sure about the future, so they can invest in new technologies. Remember, historically speaking, we are going through one of the lowest investment levels worldwide. Except China and a few countries, most of the world, firms are investing less than they used to. So actually we are going through a slow technological process. It's not because the current engineers cannot invent new machines. It's because the demand is not there, so there is no investment. The second one is welfare state leads to high wages. High wages means there are more reasons from the company's perspective to invest in robots and artificial intelligence. New technologies require workers with new skills, okay? So public education in new skills, and after your education finished for the middle age, if your industry is in decline, if your jobs in your industry is destroyed by new technologies, retraining, serious retraining. It's not like a few weeks, maybe up to 2 years like they do in Sweden. Number four is who is going to benefit from technological progress? Okay, it should be the owners of the patents or normal people. So if the patents are shorter, the technology will be cheaper. If the technology will be cheaper, the prices will be lower, and people can buy the fruits of new technology, the products of new technology cheaper. So all the benefits of technology don't go to the owner of the patent. So not only the Zuckerberg, etc., gets rich, but the benefits spread around. And finally, maybe we should start thinking more radically about the politics of technology. So instead of giving patents for research done mostly in public universities with public money, we should maybe abolish in certain instances the patents, and if the public sector is funding the research and development, maybe the patents should belong to everybody. So practically no patents, okay? So these are policies that are beneficial for technological progress. My understanding of world history in the last 2 centuries is we are living much better lives than our grandparents, thanks to technology. Our material wealth is much better. And the reason for this is technological progress. But how fast is it and who benefits from this depends on the policies we choose. So, and there are policies that are beneficial for technological progress. If you want more rapid technological progress, we can adapt these policies, okay? Conclusion. There is no need to be afraid of robots and artificial intelligence. The history shows us that robots and artificial intelligence are small shocks. So this fourth industrial revolution is actually is a less radical than the previous ones. Okay, assembly line and CNC was much more radical, much more bigger impact in productivity growth, and they took place together with increased overall welfare for society. So there is no need for be afraid of robots taking jobs, destroying jobs. Even though during the time of assembly lines and CNC's heyday, there are more jobs created than destroyed. Economies of Western Europe and United States survived much larger economic shocks, technological shocks, than in labor arrangements. And we can determine the rules such that the fruits of the new technologies benefit the majority. And finally, science and technology determine the possibilities. Okay, what will actually happen determined by our political choices. So thank you for listening. I think I've finished just in time. And I am curious to hear your questions.
Thank you, Professor, for your interesting presentation. I looked this from the chat box. So many questions.
Oh yes, there's so many questions.
So many for your presentation. First of all, from Rangga Sadasaputra. Here his questions. I would like to ask, I interest with the topic because I am enrolling the international relations. Yeah, it is the part.
I can read it. I can read it. Tevfik, I can read it. Okay. Interested in this topic because I'm enrolled in the. So most of it is a commentary. So the last part is technology can affect the dependency from developing countries to developed countries according to based on the graphic. Of course, it affects, you know, the international relations. The obvious example is the supply chains, global supply chains. Okay, we heard it. So almost nothing is produced in one country now. So even in China, many of the inputs. So if you are producing a smartphone in China, Shenzhen, the screen comes from South Korea, the memory chips comes from either Germany or Japan, the battery comes from Japan. Okay, so, and this is only possible with the internet because of all this coordination and communication requires a global supply chain means you need much more to be coordinated. So if you are trying to coordinate with telegrams or faxes, you cannot produce it. It's only possible in the age of internet. So it's effects. Okay, but the countries actually can and politically influence a lot of it, how it will affect the labor force. So even in the poor countries, in my opinion, it actually they have lots of political power to choose. And China itself is a great example. China forced the Japanese, Taiwanese, and German companies and the US companies actually to bring in at every step more complicated production and the technology to the China. So if you wanted in 90s, if you wanted to invest in China as a US company, you have to also bring in new technologies in China. And as a result, gradually Chinese companies became more and more technologically sophisticated. So it didn't happen by chance, it happened by design, okay? And in that sense, China followed the Japanese industrial policy of 1950s and 60s. And then the Korean industrial policy in 80s and 90s. So there are interdependency between countries. In my opinion, it is important to be a part of the global supply chain. So thinking of this as the West and the Japan and as the core, and we are the dependent ones. So they are the active participants, and we, Turkey and Indonesia, as the passive ones. I don't think it is valid. Even the peripheral countries have they have some control, political choices. And relating to technology policy, these countries that have an active technology policy with the aim of continuously upgrading. So you don't try to go from producing textiles to producing drones, but step by step. So it has been done before. Economic historian Ha-Joon Chang from the Cambridge University, he's originally from South Korea. He has a book, Bad Samaritans, and he starts the book in 2050 as a future in Mozambique. And then in that future, the Mozambique is an exporter of technology. It has a company called Tristar. And this is fantasy, but the joke is the following. The idea is Tristar, the Samsung means 3-star, okay, the Korean firm. And Samsung didn't start as a high-tech company. Okay, they started as an exporters of textiles, and they became gradually high-tech company with the government support and direction. So the Ha-Joon Chang's argument is any country can do it. Mozambique, an African country, if they follow the policies, and it's not secret anymore, step by step, in 2050, Africa also can be an exporter of high-tech goods. So, yes, okay. Okay, next question. Second question is exactly the topic, my topic, from Bagos. This is not true empirically, Bagos. The job creation in Asia is very fast. And Asian populations are high, but the population increase is low. I actually have another presentation and Professor Dina and Taifik have it, and you can on fertility. And if Taifik, if you want, you can share my presentation with the students, other one too. And in that one, I show that in actually the population is not growing very fast in Asia. And it's a result of increased education, more rights for women, and urbanization. And Asia is actually creating lots of jobs. So, and Asia in the last 40 years is where the countries experienced, especially countries like Indonesia and China, actually, fast economic growth and lots of job creation. So the both of them can happen together. Okay, new technology destroys existing jobs, but it creates demand for new jobs. So it can happen in Asia, and it can continue to happen again. Okay, it's not that something Asian governments don't know how to do. It's actually they are quite successful dealing with this. New, better technologies, maybe not robots, and increased employment. It happened in Asia in the last 40 years. Your parents' generation experienced it. How the Asian society can respond is my answers in the policies for technological progress in the slide. Okay, I think one deficiency in Asian economic policy is the lack of welfare state. The government spends very little to help everyday workers. Unemployment benefits are either non-existent or very low. There is no support for family, very little public childcare. So one of the most important support for ordinary workers is childcare. If the childcare publicly funded, full day, so not half day, full day, available, women can work too, okay? And if the woman can work, the families have higher income. And if there's unemployment benefits, retraining. So one big difference between the Western Europe and Asia is lack of welfare state in Asia. Welfare state is social policies that supports families, like childcare, child benefits, direct payments to families, unemployment benefits, and good retirement for old people. So in old people, people don't be poor again when they cannot work. Okay, so for the future, and that's my other presentation was about also this welfare state. So in my opinion, for Asia, that's big deficiency. Asian countries are good in adapting new technology, being a part of global value chains. So that's actually how to integrate global value chains and production is a problem in Middle East. It's a problem in Africa, not in East Asia. The East Asia deficiency is lack of welfare state. You know, what happens to you if you get sick? What happens to you if you cannot work, you are disabled, things like that. So my answer for Zekiana, I apologize if I pronounce your names wrong. Okay. My one answer is we can think of a future where the length of the workday by legislation is 20 weeks. Okay, there is no God-given rule that says that the length of the workday is 9 hours and you have to work 5 days, total of 45 hours, or as in Turkey, 48 hours in, okay? The Quran doesn't say how long you should work a day. Okay, these are all politics. We can have lots of robots doing all the dangerous jobs, all the boring jobs, and we can work 20 hours, and patents can be very short. I know these are unimaginable, but I want to remind you that, you remember the 19th century factories I showed you from England? Back then, the definition of a child was 0 to 8 years. So if you are 9 years old, you are an adult. You can work in a factory, no problem. Okay? Back then, in the dangerous factories, there was the idea of weekend. So Saturday and Sunday, no work, is invented in 20th century, early 20th century. The weekend didn't exist before. So for Christian majority countries like England, there is Sunday for going to church, but other than that, you work every day. So the idea of weekend, Saturday, no work, is Saturday and Sunday, no work, is invented in 20th century. We can increase the weekend to 3 days. It can be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay, more robots. So these are political choices. And you can be more imaginative. The robots means more production, more material wealth, but how is it going to be distributed? If you keep the wages the same, and if you reduce the work week, you increase actually the real wage increases, because you work 4 days, you get the same wage. It's actually more money than working 5 days and getting the same wage. So it can happen. And another thing in Asia is when you consider the whole year, the length of it's very long. Even the richest Asian countries, Japan and South Korea, it's very long. Okay, that's another area compared to Europe that Asia can improve. You know, the Germany and Japan, relatively same welfare, but Japanese people are working much longer compared to Germany. So it's possible to have German level welfare, which is roughly same as Japan, but compared to Japanese people working less. It's possible. Germany is not a small country. It's a country of almost 80 million people. So if an 80 million people can do it, so why not Japan? Okay. I don't think human existence will, this is a question by Ferdinand Shah, Ferdinand Sia, sorry for your name. So I see technology and robots and artificial intelligence and humans as complements, not substitutes. So what is happening is that if a job can be automated and it's profitable to do so, it will be automated, but humans will do another jobs. Just remind you, many of the jobs created most recently, application developer. There is no such job in year 2000. Okay, applications only became possible and useful after the smartphones invented and put into, they start popular. And the first very popular smartphone is iPhone from 2007. So before 2007, there is no people who develop applications, okay? So this is a new job, totally new job. So social media starts. This is a totally new 21st century job, didn't exist. And you can imagine that social media creates new jobs. It destroys some jobs, it creates other jobs. So I don't think we need policies that makes humans not inferior to robots. What we need is, because this is continuously happening, we need retraining of people who got education in the sectors that are destroyed. So for example, journalists. Classical journalism is being destroyed. You know, the print But there are needs for journalism and media. Now they need to be re-educated in the skills of social media. So what are the new skills they need to have to, they need to learn editing, so that if you shoot a news, they can edit it for digital age. So we need re-education. So some jobs will be destroyed, some others will be created. Okay, so I think this is how I look at it. Okay, so again, with big population and robots. This is question of Muhammad. So Mohammed and Muhammad Nasir. So the big population, you shouldn't think of the big population as a problem, okay? And countries with high mortality is because of these countries like Germany, Japan, is because the countries are old. The average age is high. So that's why they have high mortality. But if you look at the what we demographers call age-adjusted mortality, if you compare the countries with Indonesia and Japan, but if you adjust for the age distribution, Japanese mortality is not high. Okay, so it's not a high mortality country. It's just a very old, so lots of old people are dying. So should Indonesia follow the robots production AI? My answer is yes, but go step by step, just like the China did. Okay, so you don't go from no robots to all robots in 1 year. You go step by step, and on the way, economy adjusts. And how you do that, you became a global production chains. So, and Indonesia is actually following these steps. I don't know if it will be successful fully, but it's not like the Indonesian governments are doing nothing. And we know this because of the lots of international companies are investing in Indonesia. The trick is to convince them to bring more and more new technology. Okay, so you can learn from them, and eventually local entrepreneurs will start new firms using new technologies, just like the China's companies are doing now. You know, the example everybody knows is Huawei. Okay, they started as producers of cheap phones, then now they are producing very nice phones. Okay, so go step by step. I have, okay, the use of robots in industry will certainly affect the flow of international trade and investment. Yes, it already does. Will this have a big impact on to the developing countries? Yes. I think it's obvious from my presentation that it will affect the developing countries. Yes. Well, I'm not an expert in international relations and the weapon systems, so I don't know how much the robots can affect the warfare. But if you pay attention to the conflicts in the world, just most of the conflicts are places like Syria. Is one side is not a conventional army. They don't have the high tech. Most people are still killed in the wars by Kalashnikov. You know, the AK-47 technology from 1947. That's where the name comes from. So people can kill without the need for high tech. So I don't know. I'm not an expert on this issue. I'm not going to. So Nurdian, I already answered look at the penultimate slide. So the 5 technology, predictable environment, economic environment, so you can invest in the long term, retraining for workers, the length of the patents, things like that. These are the conditions that required. Mm-hmm. I think there are 2 sides of the government policy for technology. So this is Fahri Fajherji. Yes, development of technologies exist more in some countries. It's concentrated in Western Europe, Japan, South Korea, etc. So what should the developing countries do? You do 2 things. First is government policy adapting more and more advanced technologies. Okay, there are industries in developing countries that uses very old technologies. So one thing to do is to technological upgrade in existing industries. The second thing is to entering new industries. Okay, so Indonesia exports lots of textiles, just like Turkey, and the textiles employ lots of people, very important sector, but it's a low technology industry. So what you need to is to enter gradually industries with high tech, the automobiles, electronics. So government policy can support this kind of investment. And another one the government can do is actually train people for these new industries. Okay. Okay, Mohammed, one more question. Oh, there are, okay. Okay, the TikTok application, US is trying. I don't know. Donald Trump is a very erratic leader. He says one thing today, he says another thing tomorrow. I don't think it's a coherent policy of the United States. Okay, I don't know. I mean, I don't know I don't think anybody knows what Donald Trump will do next. Donald Trump is an example of a leader who is unpredictable. Unpredictable leaders are bad for technological adaptation. It makes the economic outlook in the future unpredictable. So it's bad for United States more than bad for China. Okay, this environment and robotics industry is, it can go either way. So for example, let's think a very dangerous industry with lots of environmental problems is coal producing, mining in general. So we can allow mining continue with machines, so we can even have more environmental damage, or we can write the rules and regulations such that these machines, we use more efficient methods to, so we minimize the amount of mining. And we do it very safely with robots. I don't think technology determines that. It's the rules and regulations and politics will determine it. Okay.
Professor, we have still 10 minutes for...
Yeah. Okay, I just read the question and I'm going through and answering it.
Yeah.
Is it okay?
It's okay, Pak.
Yes, yes, yes. So there are, the robots will replace humans in most labor intensive. Okay, what about AI, artificial intelligence, level of human intelligence? So for example, first of all, the robots are not replacing humans in labor intensive industries. So a couple of labor intensive industries that the robots are not replacing: education, so health, so machines and artificial technology. And this webinar is an possible thanks to the Zoom's artificial intelligence. It's complements, not replace. So there are still teachers, administrators, and professors and students. So the artificial, in some labor intensive sectors, the AI is not replacing, but actually complementing. Just like the Google did not replace libraries, okay? Librarians. Now we don't go to library. And in my university, the library is now called Information Center. So it actually employs more people because technology allowed us to reach much more information much more easily than before. So we are using it more information, more data. So we actually need more librarians in our university. It's actually the librarians is an example that 30 years ago, the prediction was there will be no need for librarians, but the librarians adapted themselves to the new environment. Instead of just checking in books, giving people books and sorting books, they actually changed their education, how they trained people, and now they became information centers. So actually the employment in libraries are increasing. Library departments, librarian people, these are in Turkey at least, there are like undergraduate degrees in library, and they find jobs very easily. There are more needs than, not less. So there are like some labor intensive industries that are actually complements. And the answer to risky is how to prepare to counter or minimize the risk of artificial intelligence suppressing us is to learning how to work with technology. So you complement it, okay? There is always, as long as humans exist, in my opinion, a need for humans. So I think that's one example. So Ayu Fitriya's question is, how do we entrepreneur face a competition in Asia or world so as not to left behind and replaced by robots? The answer is that question is in my presentation. It depends on what you can do, depends on the wage levels in your country and the interest rates and economic environment, and also the rules and regulations. As an individual, you cannot change the wage level, you cannot change the interest rates in banks, and you cannot change the government policy. So whatever the rules in your country, you have to live with them and the interest rates. But also we are also, at least in Indonesia and Turkey where there are elections, political citizens. You can be a part of the political organization that advocates for policies that are beneficial for technological progress. So as an individual, you have to accept whatever exists in your country, and you have to, if it's a, whatever is the economic conditions, wage level, the interest rate level, etc. But we are also political citizens. Okay. So Raihan's question is about artificial intelligence. My answer is very generic. Sorry, you have to learn to integrate it into your job. So if you have a restaurant, you should probably have your web page for your restaurant, your menu online. In the time of this COVID, you know, some restaurants in Turkey, they start to have, you know, their menu online, and they have a barcode on the table. You get, you read the barcode with your smartphone on the table, and it brings you the menu. So the answer is everybody, just like we learn reading and mathematics in the school. There are basic skills of digital age, you know, designing a basic web page, you know, putting your firm's date menu or whatever you are doing online and updating it regularly. You know, you learn the basics of design, online design. You know, there are some simple rules that everybody can learn. For example, there are colors that when you put them together, the people with color blindness cannot read. So there are some tricks how you prepare an online web page, and everybody can learn them. So, you know, these are kind of, you don't need to be a computer engineer to do that. You know, there are tools, programs, editing tools, you know, video editing tools that average person can, and average people are using it. Look at most of the YouTube videos. People prepare them at home, okay? So these kind of things, the answer to your question is that you learn the skills necessary to digital age, okay? In 19th century, in England, then the technological leader of the world, the belief was that the girls should not go to school, because the belief was that the spending schooling of the girls were waste of money because girls was not as smart as boys. This is 19th century in England. Now we don't believe in that, okay? We know better, and we know that the girls can learn mathematics, girls can learn to read, just like boys. There's no difference. But in 19th century, they didn't educate girls because they think their brain is not good enough to learn mathematics. You know, and humans are very adaptable. They can learn a lot. So as I said, you don't need to be a computer scientist now to design a web page, basic web page, or to edit some video and put it on YouTube and link it to your own website, things like that. It's the skill. It's like, you know, in primary school you learn reading, writing. In the middle school, I think next generation will learn this kind of, and in many places in Europe, they are already learning these basic digital skills. This can be taught. Many people learn it. So I don't think we should be afraid of new technologies. We should embrace them. And so many of the questions are in the same manner. We should embrace them. We should put them into curriculum, integrate them into our curriculums. And aim is not to make everybody a computer scientist. Okay, there are other skills that people learn. So a journalist, we need to learn digital skills, editing of videos. Okay, there is no other way around it. There will be no print journal, print newspapers in near future. Everything will be online. And these skills have to be learned, and they can be learned. Okay, that's my general answer to this kind of what can we do. And then we should demand from our governments policies that are good for technological progress, and also policies where the fruits of the technological progress is shared by the majority. Okay, so if there will be more robots, we should demand for a welfare state. What is a welfare state? Free education, free healthcare, free childcare, and why not shorter work weeks? Okay, we should work 6 hours a day, in my opinion. Okay. Do I have any more time, Mr. Taif?
I apologize, Mr. Professor.
Yes.
We have a limitation of time.
Okay. There are many more questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a few
Yeah,
questions.
but yeah, the lecture has to end at some point.
But we have.
So everybody, just one last word. I hope you enjoyed the lecture. You can share, Mr. Tevfik, you can share my presentation with the students. I don't mind.
Yeah. We have shared your
Okay.
your
And you can
presentation.
share my other presentation because it's about welfare state and fertility. You can share that one. I don't mind. Yeah.
Both of your
Okay,
paper
you
we
share both. Great,
share
great.
it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. It was a pleasure, and I thank you for this lots of questions.
Thank you, Professor Hasan from Kadir Has University. Has give some presentation and knowledge regarding robot and artificial intelligence. That's artificial intelligence is complement, not replace human. Thank you for the special quote from you today.
Okay,
so,
yeah, thank you.
So here we look forward from Dr. Diani Risda, representative of One Asia Indonesia Foundation. May you can give us some can you Ibu Diani, can you?
Yeah. Okay. Professor Hasan, thank you very much for your time and for your lecture. It's very, very interesting. So our students learn so much from you, and hopefully we will make some collaboration between UNPAS and also your university. Yeah, thank you very much. Hopefully you can visit Bandung after
I
the
really want
pandemic.
to. Yes.
It's very
I really want to.
good. Yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Ibu Diani Risda, representative of One Asia Indonesia Foundation. So this is the last of our agenda. So we have many presenter from Singapore, New Zealand, and other from domestic. We can face again at 2 o'clock in Jakarta time. So I would like to end our conference today in this moment from with Mr. Professor Hasan Tekguc. So before we end, our host like to take some photo. May you open your video, take a picture.
Yes, thank you for Mr. Topik. The participant of this meeting, can you to open your video, and I will capture a power screen for this session. And the first session, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I will to next screen. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I will to next screen. 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry, Mr. Can you open your video? Oh, yes. 1, 2, 3. And the last screen. 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Thank you for your
Thank
participants.
you.
Thank you,
And
Pak Aceh, for your
okay,
take a
so
picture.
I'm
So I closed our conference today with Professor Hasan Tekguc from Kadir Has University. Thank you so much, Professor, for joining us and share your knowledge regarding the robotics and artificial intelligence. Thank you for all our students and all the committee. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
and we will
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Everybody.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, sir.
Autan. Anjir.
Okay. Okay, I'm stopping, leaving the video. Yes.
Sudah keluar ya Pak Hasannya ya? Pak Acep.
sudah. Ya, sudah.
Nanti jangan lupa jam 2 ya. Jam 2 kurang kita sudah buka ya.
Jam 2.
Siap.
Baik, Pak.
Oke, sampai ketemu jam 2 lagi ya.
Jam 2 aja.
Jam 2 kurang ya Pak Acep ya.
Ya, di absen itu jam, nanti saya setting lagi untuk bisa dibuka jam 1 berarti Popik ya?
Enggak.
Absen.
Nanti kita istirahat dulu ya.
Ya. Terima kasih ya. Saya akhiri. Terima kasih.
Di Paujan di Pak.